James Check says this dip is not the dip you should be worried about, and it's still a good time to buy more Bitcoin. So how does he know? Well, first of all, who is James Check? James Check, who goes by Checkmate or Checkmatey with a Y on the end, is my favorite Bitcoin analyst, the only one I follow. And what he does all day long, 24/7, when he's not sleeping, is he analyzes the Bitcoin ecosystem, the Bitcoin market, and looks at every single indicator that could possibly indicate whether we're hitting a top or a bottom in the life cycle and price of Bitcoin. Because as with anything, it goes up and down on its way up. And a lot of people just don't want to buy the very peak tips and then be stuck underwater for a long time. And James Check is by far the best person to tell you is now a good time to buy Bitcoin. Now, he will be the first to tell you, and I will be the first to tell you, all times are the best time to buy Bitcoin. It's never a bad time to buy Bitcoin. But if you want to sort of lower your anxiety and your heartburn related to investing, then he can give you a lot of comfort of sort of how things are acting and the way they're acting. So he did a report this morning called what was it, damage report or something like that, because the price dipped within the last week, part of the last week, the price dipped from 118,000 down to 113,000. So he is the best person in the entire world for evaluating, is there a problem here? Now, the only downside is you usually get those reports, a day or two. They're usually done on a Monday and like a Thursday. And so sometimes if it's dipping going into a weekend like this one, um, he is in Australia, so if the price starts dipping aggressively on a Friday, after his business hours, you typically don't get the report until Monday morning, which is fine. I don't expect him to work on weekends. But anyway, by the time you wake up first thing Monday morning, he's already finished the report because Australia's way ahead time zone wise as compared to the United States. So here's what the report said. One second. So he goes through item by item and says, okay, the price dipped by from 118 to 113. Should we be worried? Okay, the first thing you look at is, okay, how much money is going into or out of Bitcoin on a macro scale. So he looks at that. He says, we're looking good. Next, he's looking at, okay, how in or out of profit are people who bought Bitcoin recently? Are people capitulating? Is there fear? Or is there behavior indicating that a lot of people are running scared? And he looks at that metric and he says, no, we're looking good on that metric. Then he looks at, okay, how much profit or loss are people actually taking on the Bitcoin they hold? So he looks at how much money is coming in and out of Bitcoin and how does that compare with the averages over time, especially the averages before, during, and after markets and bull markets, and how does the metrics of the current dip compare to past bull markets and bear markets and the metrics before, during, and after those things. Then he looks at, okay, how much in loss or out of loss is the average Bitcoin holder that has bought recently, which are called short-term holders, because if short-term holders are in 5 or 10% loss from a dip, that's fine. Most people are not, having a serious cow when they're only 5 or 10% down from whatever they bought at. But when people start getting 20 or 30% down from the price they paid, they start, really freaking out. So he looks at those metrics and he says, hey, we're not, it's nothing to worry about. The amount down that short-term holders are is not the kind of numbers that typically freak them out. And then he looks at, okay, realized gain or loss, which is okay, the actual people that are buying or selling Bitcoin. You don't know who those people are. You don't know names of those people. It's all anonymized data, but you can tell on the Bitcoin blockchain based on, is the Bitcoin that are moving in or out of Coinbase or something like that, are they held by someone who's held them a long time? Or are they held by somebody who's held them a short time? Or did they buy them last week at 118, or did they buy them at the peak of 123? Or are these people selling or buying that, bought Bitcoin at 110? You can tell all of that from the Bitcoin blockchain and from the flows related to the exchange traded funds, the Bitcoin ETFs, exchange traded funds. So James Check looks at all of that. Basically, the report from all of this morning is things are looking great. He looks at a lot more metrics than that. And actually, he's offering a 7-day trial, free trial right now. So if you want to get a sense of what James Check, what his analysis is like, then I would say sign up for a free trial. read the report from this morning called Damage Report, watch the video from this morning, which is about 40 minutes long, and then you can just decide is that sort of content the sort of content that you need to feel good about Bitcoin. In my case, it is, and it's worth $29 a month, which is what I pay, and it's worth it because a lot of people look to me when the price dips or when it rockets up. When it rockets up, you know, they reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, is it still a good time to buy? Is this still a good time to buy?" And I don't want to tell people it's a good time to buy if James Beck is telling me, "Hey, this thing is really overheated." Like everybody's sitting on a fat profit right now, and long-term holders are starting to cash out to improve the lives of themselves and their families. And basically, if the metrics indicate that these are the sort of things people were doing when the price is really high comparatively, then, I want to be more cautious. Again, it's not that I'm ever going to say don't buy Bitcoin. I might just say, hey, if you're buying Bitcoin right now, you need to be, you need to be planning on holding it for quite a while. Same before, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago, whatever it was, 6 months ago. Maybe it was longer than that. Anyway, I posted on Facebook that look, if you're buying between $70,000 and $90,000, you should buy right now, no matter what. If you're buying between 190,000 and 110, plan to hold it for 1 or 2 years. If you're buying above 110, plan to hold for 3 or 4 years. Now, all of those numbers go up over time. So, maybe today you'd add 10,000 to that, and I would say, look, if the price is between I'll just throw this out there because it probably feels about right. If the price is between 80 and 100, um, you should, no matter what, like, it doesn't matter how long you're planning on holding it, as long as you have a decent risk tolerance, prices between 100, 80 and 100 are a fire sale. Between 100 and 120, just plan to hold for at least 1 to 2 years. And prices above 120, probably you should plan to hold for 3 or 4 years. So you'll notice all of those price ranges ratcheted by $10,000. It's because time has passed. More people have had more time to adopt Bitcoin. There's a lot of things positive that have happened in the Bitcoin marketplace. And that makes me more confident saying, hey, the range is where I recommend buy no matter what versus buy if you plan to hold for at least 1 to 2 years versus buy if only if you can definitely hold for 3 to 4 years. Those ranges are probably by $10,000 versus the same places that I recommended previously. Because again, market adoption is higher than it was when I made those recommendations, back when I made them. So anyway, so James Check looks at all of that. If you want to get a good flavor of his stuff, sign up for a free 7-day trial. Read the report from this morning called Damage Report. Read or listen or watch the YouTube video that goes with it, which is 40 minutes long, which reiterates a lot of the stuff that is in the written report, but it takes you about 10 minutes to read the written report, and the YouTube video is like 40 minutes long. So it's got a few extra bonus items in it that are, helpful to know. And then you can decide if that's the sort of content that is compelling and interesting to you. But anyway, James Check says we have nothing to worry about, that if you're buying Bitcoin, you can confidently do that with all the metrics on your side. Again, it doesn't mean that the price is not, high a little bit. Obviously, in the 4-year cycle, we're in the third of the 3 up years. But, most people are saying we're not going to have a down year like we did in 2014, 2018, and 2022. Probably not going to have that in 2026 because Bitcoin is just a much more robust asset with much stronger holders right now than we've had in previous cycles. In the previous cycles, everybody was speculating that worldwide adoption was just around the corner. And right now, so far, we have not seen just the speculative craziness that you typically would see before a major correction. So if we don't get that speculative craziness, we just sort of keep ratcheting higher and then grinding sideways for weeks or months, and then ratcheting higher, and then grinding sideways for weeks or months, and then ratcheting higher. That's much more sustainable long term than these huge parabolic rises where the price goes up by 50 or 80% in a matter of weeks or months, which those sort of things tend to be unsustainable, which means we typically walk back and settle down for a little while before we go back up. But it doesn't feel like that's where we are. According to James Check, that is not where we are. And so again, it's a great time to buy Bitcoin. In summary, James Check is absolutely the person to talk to, or not talk to read his research. Um, and that's by far the best place to do it. If you're wondering where to get the YouTube video for James Check, you have to be a subscriber to get his YouTube videos. Now, he does guest appearances on podcasts regularly, but to actually watch his videos, you've got to subscribe to his newsletter. But again, you can do that right now if you go to Check on Chain, or just go to the link I sent this morning. There's a link there where you can sign up for a free 7-day trial. Somebody has a really slick looking Cybertruck, but completely black Cybertruck back there. Anyway, you can sign up for a completely free 7-day trial and you can watch the video. But the only way to watch the video is to be a subscriber. And you can do that with a free 7-day trial right now if you're interested. So I love James Check. His stuff is by far the best signal to noise ratio of anything in the world of Bitcoin. And it's the best guide if you own Bitcoin and you like keeping an eye on it, or you're obsessed with Bitcoin like I am, or if you just want to know every time the price dips or goes up, what exactly happening and how sustainable, is this dip going to turn into a crash, or is this peak going to turn into a major price correction? Basically, is a dip going to turn into a crash, or is a, swing going to turn into a crash? James Check is by far the best person in the entire world to tell you that. And I love his research. And there you go. Hopefully all that's helpful. Thanks, everyone.